I am. Okay. So welcome everyone to tonight's Gwinnett County Board of Education, District 2 and District 4 Candidate Forum. This is hosted by Gwinnett SToPP and the Gwinnett County Association of Educators, excuse me. And stop sharing for a moment. So again, my name is BC Jackson. I'm a parent, Gwinnett County stakeholder, and volunteer with Gwinnett SToPP. Marlon Tillman is the executive director of Gwinnett SToPP, and Juliet Cassidy Floyd is the vice president of the Gwinnett County Association of Editors. We're so pleased to have you here tonight on Zoom and Facebook Live. We have the candidates confirmed for District 2. Is Steve Knudsen, who is the incumbent, and Michael Rudnick is the challenger. He did accept our invitation, but declined to participate upon reviewing some policies, I guess, that he didn't agree with. So thank you, Steve Knudsen, for honoring your commitment to share your views with Gwinnett County residents. Confirmed for District 4 candidates are Kelly Kaltz, Michael Tony Sellers, Dr. Adrienne Simmons, Matt Sonis, and Dr. Alexis Williams. There will be time limits on questions that range from 1 to 3 minutes for each of the candidates. And we will ask that candidates please stick to the time limits because we do have a very tight program, and so we want to make sure that everyone has time to respond and share their views. Just some quick housekeeping, and then the candidates will have 1 minute each for opening remarks. Reminder that the general primary nonpartisan election is May 24th, 2022. So please do vote. That is the election and not a primary. And so we have just about 6 weeks or so until we select our next few candidates. Okay, and with that, I will turn it over to Juliet.
Thank you, BC. Welcome everyone to Gwinnett SToPP and Gwinnett County Association of Educators Candidate Forum. Candidates, we appreciate you giving us your time so we can get to know you better. I am Dr. Juliet Cassidy Floyd, the newly elected Vice President for GCAE. Our professional organization strives to serve as the model for leadership in education, to be the local voice for public education, and to promote professional excellence among educators by recognizing the fundamental importance of the educator in the learning process. We are humbled to be part of this partnership with Gwinnett SToPP as we too advocate for dismantling injustice for our students. We recognize the growing diversity within Gwinnett County, and we want to ensure accountability of all our board members in creating an equitable school environment that every educator, student, family, and community can be proud to be a part of. Ignoring precedents, this General Assembly session, state lawmakers ignored the input from the local elected officials and created a nonpartisan school board election that will come much sooner than originally determined. It is important that we take this opportunity to get to know our candidates so we can make informed choices for District 2 and 4 on May 24th. Now I will turn it over to Marlon Tillman, co-founder of Gwinnett SToPP. Marlon, we appreciate the work your organization is doing for our students.
Thank you, Juliet. If we could go back, BC, to the first Gwinnett SToPP slide. So the Gwinnett Parent Coalition to Dismantle the School to Prison Pipeline, Gwinnett SToPP for short, is a parent-driven organization that organizes parents, students, and community members around just what the name says. We do our work through 2 buckets: public education, which is things like this, our Parent Leadership Institute, various workshops on education, various education topics, as well as our Youth Leadership Institute. Through our advocacy policy change, we push for and against policies that impact the school to prison pipeline. We do our work at the local, state, and federal levels. Next, please. And I just wanted to share some exciting news. Gwinnett SToPP was included in the book Willful Defiance. We will have a celebration of the education justice movement on May 5th at the Norcross Library. If you register and attend, the first 10 registered attendees will receive a free signed copy of the book. The author will be flying in to join us for the celebration, and we'll also talk about the education justice movement. The Gwinnett County Library will be providing refreshments, and there will also be a silent auction. I hope to see you there. Thank you. Oh, and next we're going to get started on our event. Our moderator for this evening is Professor Yassine Coote. And Professor Coote is involved with the school system on several levels. He has worked as a public school teacher, as an advocate for immigrants and refugees, and currently works as an assistant professor of education at the University of North Georgia. He is also the parent of a GCPS middle schooler. Welcome, Dr. Coote.
Thank you for introducing me, and thank you for inviting me. I am very appreciative of the opportunity to be involved with this event and to also myself learn about what the candidates have to offer. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Gwinnett Board of Education Candidate Forum, hosted by Gwinnett SToPP and the Gwinnett County Association of Educators. My name is Yassine Coote, and I will be the moderator for tonight's event, which is recorded and will be posted online. The goal for this event is to give you, our audience, an opportunity to hear candidates' plans and proposals so that you're better informed about your upcoming choice on May 24th. This event is not a debate in which candidates speak to one another. They will only be addressing you, our audience. Note that we will not be fact-checking candidates' answers. We urge you, our attendees, to research sound sources to evaluate the claims made tonight. After the event, we will share ways to evaluate such claims, and in the name of accuracy and fairness, we will also share information about important topics brought up during tonight's event that may be incomplete. These posts will contribute to tonight's mission of informing our audience and voters as a whole. So now I would like for the candidates to introduce themselves. You will have each 1 minute to do so. I will tee you up, so by calling you, please do so and try your best to stick to that 1 minute. I have a list that I have written, and I will use that list to call everyone by name. So to start, we'll have Mr. Matt Sones. And you're muted.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I want to thank SToPP for this opportunity to debate some of these very pressing issues. My name is Matt Sones, and I am a parent of 2 Parkview Panthers. I have a freshman and a junior at Parkview. I've lived in the Parkview district for about 22 years now. So GCPS, the Parkview cluster, has played a central role in our family's lives for a very long time. And we are very much appreciative of the school system. I'm running out of love for the school system because I've seen a lot of wonderful things, met a lot of wonderful people. My children have thrived in this school system. But I feel like the pandemic has obviously had a very, very profound impact on both students and teachers and staff members. And I'm running because I want to make sure that we are recovering from those very traumatic effects of the pandemic. And again, I'm running out of how much I really care and love GCPS. It's a wonderful school system. And I really think that we can.
Thank you. Thank you. Next on our list, we have Kelly Counts. And I know that Mrs. Couts had a few issues earlier, so hopefully she's able to join us. For the sake of time, I will jump to Mr. Tony Sellers, and maybe we'll come back to Mrs. Couts in a moment. Mr. Sellers, would you like to take a minute to introduce yourself? No, you will need to, you cannot unmute. Oh, there you go, you are unmuted. You're welcome. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, now I'm unmuted. Can you hear me? I'm at the ballpark and I apologize.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
All right, my name is Kelly Couts and I'm asking to be your next school board representative for District 4. I'm asking for this because I am passionate about our children, I'm passionate about our community, and I'm passionate about education. I'm also asking you this because I believe I'm the best qualified candidate. I'm invested, I'm experienced, and I'm involved. I'm invested because I'm a graduate of Gwinnett County Public Schools. I graduated from Brookwood High School. I'm also invested because my mom's a retired school teacher. She taught for 32 years at Lilburn Middle, and I have a first grader now at Gwynn Oaks Elementary School. I'm experienced because being on school board is not just about education, it's also about government function. And so as the former mayor of Snellville, I have experience with developing budgets, overseeing capital improvement projects, and developing government policies. As an attorney, I've represented teachers in disciplinary processes in front of the PSC. I've represented school bus drivers. I've represented students in the disciplinary process, the panel process, and the IEP process. And I'm involved in the community. I'm out here right now at a ball game because I'm the team mom. That was my responsibility. I'm an I-9 coach, I-9 sports basketball coach, flags.
Thank you. Thank you for your introduction. And so we'll go back to Mr. Tony Sellers, and I'm sorry about the issue. Yes, so let's go ahead, and you are unmuted.
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you for having me. My name is Tony Sellers. I've lived in the district for 25 years. I live in Lilburn. I don't have children currently enrolled, but my children graduated. The last one graduated there from the district in 4 years ago. The reason I'm running for office or running for the District 4 school board seat is that I'm an 18-year experienced teacher. I taught at Berkmar High School, which is a Title I school in Gwinnett County's District 4. I've seen the issues from the inside as it connects to students, to parents, and to teachers. So I know the issues because I've been inside the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Next is Dr. Adrienne Simmons.
Good afternoon. Well, good evening, actually. My name is Dr. Adrienne Simmons, and I am, I've been a Gwinnett County resident for 10 years now. I have 2 students in the school system, one elementary school student, one on her way to middle school. And I am running with them for our teachers, our learners, and our community. Our teachers have gone through so much the last couple of years. The number of teachers leaving the profession is at an alarming rate. And so I do want to be an advocate for those teachers. I've been a classroom teacher myself and an instructional coach as well. So I have the insight as a frontline worker. I've also worked at the Georgia Department of Education as a program manager. And so I'm aware of best practices across the state that we can bring to Gwinnett County Public Schools and creating policy. I have a master's in reading, language, and literacy, as well as a doctorate in education, educational leadership. And so I'm looking to not only shape policy and create policy, but I can also provide that expertise and insight as it relates to what policy looks like when it is implemented. I'm also advocating for parents and wanting to ensure that they have a voice at the table and that we work collaboratively with our community members.
Thank you, Dr. Simmons. And our last candidate for District 4 is Dr. Alexis Williams. Was Dr. Williams able to join us?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay. So we've just heard from our 4 candidates for District 4. We will move on to District 2 with Steve Knudsen.
So he,
Dr. Coot, Steve Knudsen will be joining at the 8:15 time for the District 2 candidate.
Okay, that works. So that allows you to actually jump into the core of our evening. And I would like to start by stating the rules and format for the event. The questions we will be asking you have been submitted in advance. They have not been shared with candidates yet. We will also take one possible question from the chat tonight. So if you are attending, you may use that function to submit your questions, and we will do our best to tackle them with the time we have. The process will be quite simple. I will ask a question and then call on a first candidate to answer it. That candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to address it. Once you have 15 seconds left, you will hear a tone that indicates you that you basically must wrap up your answer because you're running out of time. As you know, there's a mute option available that we will use because we want to make sure that time is respected, that we have a chance to hear from every candidate, and that our audience hears from everyone. So we will start with Kelly Couts, and the question, which every candidate will answer, is as follows. Data suggests that the path to mass incarceration starts as early as elementary school. Please share your understanding of the school to prison pipeline and what you will do to keep kids in school and out of jail.
Okay, my day job, I work as an attorney in Gwinnett County Juvenile Court. So I too often do see children at a young age that become incarcerated. And we have to stop it. One of the things I would like to do is amend our disciplinary process, return common sense to our classrooms, but also find a way for children, if we can expunge criminal records, we should be able to expunge the disciplinary process. Children at elementary school that get in trouble, that shouldn't follow them for the rest of their educational career.
Thank you. Mr. Tony Sellers.
Yes, the school to prison pipeline can start early on, and the research has shown that some states, they plan their prisons by how many students can't read at the 3rd or 4th grade level. It is a huge issue. So what would we do about that? We would make sure that the students can read at the early grades so that they can participate in school and don't feel that they are an outcast or are not able to be part of the process of school. The school to prison pipeline continues. I was a high school teacher, and our discipline process currently, the students are given ISS, they're out of the classroom. They need to be in the classroom. If they're given OSS, they're out of the school. If they are paneled, they get the chance to go to the Give Center, or they can get what's called homebound instruction. But many of the kids who are on homebound are not really at home, they're unsupervised, and they're getting into other things. So the discipline process can actually encourage the school to prison pipeline and not have the kids doing the things that they need to be doing to meet their goals and finish their education process, get graduated, and move on to a successful life. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Thank you. Dr. Simmons?
Yes, so as Mr. Sellers shared, oftentimes students are being tracked for the prison pipeline beginning in 3rd grade based on their reading scores. I initially started teaching as a first grade teacher. And what I came to realize is that if students can't read, they can't access the other content areas, right? They can't complete the mathematics problem solving. They can't read about science and social studies topics to gather an understanding. And that's part of the reason why I went back to school to get a degree in reading, language, and literacy. And so I would say that one way to address that is, of course, to make sure our teachers are equipped, to make sure they are prepared in the teaching of reading. It is a science. It's not something that is easily learned or acquired. I'm sure we have many teachers in the system that are already very talented in teaching reading, but we need to make sure that all of our teachers are equipped to do so, especially in the elementary grades. And once students get into middle school and high school, we need to make sure that they are engaged in the process and excited about coming to school. Oftentimes in elementary school, the kids, they come to school excited, they're ready to learn. And then that engagement starts to fall off as they get older. And so we really need to focus on making sure we create a culture of care and a culture of excitement as it relates to learning. And that means we need to get a good understanding of our students and what their interests are and make sure that we're meeting their interests. And when it comes to discipline, we should have restorative practices in place so students aren't penalized, but instead they are provided supports on how to manage and problem solve issues when they arise.
Thank you, Dr. Simmons. Mr. Soanes?
And I think this is a very complex issue that doesn't necessarily have any simple answers. But I will agree that one of the things that needs to be ensured is that there is continued student engagement. The data I've looked at shows that Gwinnett County schools, middle schoolers and high schoolers, only about half are proficient in reading and math. And I think right there, that's indicative of some broader underlying issues that may be contributing to the school to prison pipeline. I think what needs to happen is that identify what specific factors beyond just the educational aspects that are contributing to it. And again, I'm sure there are many factors that are contributing to it. And I think overcoming and identifying and overcoming barriers to student engagement at all levels, at all grade levels is going to be critical, because if a student doesn't feel engaged, doesn't feel any belonging in the classroom, that in and of itself is probably going to contribute to these unfortunate outcomes. So I think we need to understand what are some of the factors beyond just the academics that may be contributing, and utilize school resources to address some of those factors.
Thank you very much, Mr. Soanes. We'll move on to our second question, and we will start with Mr. Sellers. So Gwinnett County Public Schools depends heavily on multiple standardized tests to determine meeting AKS standards. Can you speak to the effectiveness of testing as a barometer for education, and what, if anything, you would propose to change?
Yes, testing is an essential function of what we do at schools. We have to measure students. The problem that Gwinnett has had in the past and continues to have is too many tests. Standardized tests should be reduced. I think that I've mentioned before that my daughter talked to me about how many tests there are, and I know that seniors take about 15 or 16 standardized tests. This includes district assessments. It includes assessments from the state. It includes things like the gateway test. Many of the teachers one to another, rather than to really look at what the students are achieving. I think that we should reduce it down to at most what the state requires. Gwinnett could easily get rid of the gateway test. We have the 11th grade writing exam, so we don't really need the gateway test. So some are unnecessary. And I think that many of the tests that we see now, that the students are over tested. They have too many tests, and many people don't even understand in the community. people who I speak to, that students lose educational days or part of an educational day for every one of these standardized tests that they take. So if you've got 16 partial days that you lose, you're looking at like 8 complete days of room time. Many of our kids need to be in the classroom. They are over-tested. We should very seriously look at reducing the number of tests and keeping the ones that really work and the ones that we really need, rather than just testing for testing's sake. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Dr. Simmons?
Yes, so what's most important is that teachers and students are engaging in learning, and assessment takes away from that teaching and learning process. However, assessment does play a role. It helps with accountability and ensuring that our students are progressing. However, my view is that there needs to be less of a focus on summative assessment and more of a focus on formative assessment. And so when we think of summative assessment, that includes those high stakes tests like the Georgia Milestones, Gateway Assessment, things of that sort. Whereas formative assessment happens day to day. It could include just a thumbs up, thumbs down activity. It can include a journal entry response. It could include putting on a performance. And so I really think we need to, as a district, be more forward thinking and innovative as it relates to what assessment looks like and how we can start maximizing our use of formative assessment. That's assessment that gives us immediate feedback from day to day, that it lets teachers know how students are doing at the individual level. And the teachers can utilize that feedback to course correct. They can use the feedback to provide students with more targeted support. And so we really need to just think about how we can be more innovative and begin to build in and educate, our schools and leaders on the power of formative assessment and how we can begin to utilize feedback from that day-to-day ongoing assessment in place of so many summative assessments to gauge our students' needs and to provide them with the instruction that's going to benefit them most and help them to achieve.
Thank you very much, Dr. Simmons. Mr. Soanes?
Sure. So I'm not an educator, so I can't necessarily speak to specific tests. As a parent, I can acknowledge that my children take a lot of tests, and that concerns me because I agree that that cuts into times when they could actually be learning critical thinking skills and learning how to analyze data and extrapolate data. So that, as a parent, concerns me. However, in my professional life, I am an evaluator. I evaluate programs, and I recognize that programs need outcomes to ascertain whether or not they have been successful. So I do understand the need and think that there should be some standardized outcome tests and outcome measures to reflect whether or not students are mastering the skills, reading and math. But I also think that one of the things that I see when I hire people newly hired from college is that many of them are extremely gifted at taking tests and extremely gifted at repeating answers and repeating things they've been taught. And one of the skills that I do consistently see lacking is the ability to sometimes extrapolate from what they've learned and apply it. I don't know if there are tests that, I'm sure there are batteries that can assess that, but I do think that in general, there are too many standardized tests. I do think testing comes at the expense of practical learning, but again, recognize that there is a need for some sort of outcomes measurement in a school system.
Thank you, Mr. Soanes. I will move on to Mrs. Count.
The problem with standardized tests is that they're not standard for everyone. They're not fair for everyone. My ex-husband wrote his dissertation on single gender learning, and one of the things that we learned through his dissertation process is we all learn differently, and we all express the way that we've learned knowledge in a different manner. And so we do need a balance of both formative and summative assessments. I do believe that Gwinnett County has too many standardized tests. I believe it becomes easy to teach a unit and then have standardized tests at the end of that unit. But our teachers are better than that. They're more qualified and they're more creative. So we need to eliminate some of the standardized testing, and we need to come up with more creative ways to test our students.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Counts. And we'll proceed to our third question. And we will start with Dr. Simmons. Many school resource officers carry 2 guns and a taser. Do you believe it is appropriate to tase students? What kind of special training should be required when SROs are hired to transition them from traditional police work to working with children?
Yes, I definitely believe that we need to ensure that our school resource officers are well trained. I believe that their role in the school should be one of supporting students, perhaps being a role model to students, being approachable. Students should deem them as someone they can come up and talk to and engage with. So I do question this whole idea of even showing up in perhaps a police uniform. Many of our students from low-income communities may have had an experience where the police are in their neighborhoods more frequently than not. And so they have to deal with the trauma of that. They may have negative associations with police enforcement. And so when you introduce that in the learning environment, that could explain why students maybe are not coming to school. We have 20% of our students not graduating on time. They're choosing not to come to school, many of them. And so we have to think about why that is. And so we don't want any barriers to the learning. And so school resource officers is an area that I think we need to reconsider and think about in terms of how those officers show up and the role that they play in our schools. We want them to be someone that the community deems as a liaison or someone that will partner with them in making sure the schools are safe. But we don't want them to pose as a threat or to cause any type of as it relates to our students, any type of traumatic experiences. So we really need to rethink their presence and the role that they play and ensure that they are certainly trained in how to de-escalate situations in the school.
Thank you, Dr. Simmons. Mr. Sones?
So to answer your question, I do not think it's appropriate for SROs to tase students. And I'm not even sure that it's appropriate for them to be armed in the schools. You know, I understand the need to keep children safe. There's a lot of bad things that go on, and everybody's familiar with, you know, what's happened in schools in the past. I hasten to say that you know, an armed person in a school would have prevented that. I haven't seen many cases where that has happened. Yet, by the same token, I have experience where in my own children's school, an SRO de-escalated a very, very awful situation that could have been even worse. And I question what would have happened had that SRO not been there. So in my overall estimation of SROs, I think they can play a vital role. I don't think we can just get rid of them out of hand. I don't think that you know, counseling and counselors and SROs need to be mutually exclusive. You know, I do think there's a way that they can coexist and work with each other. But the bottom line is, I'm not comfortable with armed officers in schools. There's got to be a better way than that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sones. Now, Mrs. Counts.
And so coming as an attorney in juvenile court, I probably see this issue a little bit differently than my colleagues, in that I see things that happen in our school systems that don't necessarily make the news or that people hear about on a daily basis. You know, I have seen not students, but children under the eyes of the law that have come into the schools with weapons, and the SRO has been there to protect our children that are actually there for school. And so I do support the SROs. I do believe that they provide an essential function in our school system. I don't think any of us want, you know, an SRO to unnecessarily use a taser or their weapon against our children, but I do think that they provide a protection to our children from the community and from outside intruders. I do believe though that, and I think our SROs, they don't wear their traditional uniform. They do typically wear a polo shirt. You know, unfortunately the law says they still have to carry they have to have a badge and they have to have it displayed. And so, you know, we can't put them in plain clothing necessarily. But I do believe that they need to undergo additional training. I think they need to undergo sensitivity training. There's special training that as an attorney in juvenile court, I have to go through to talk to children. It might be muted. And so I believe that the SROs need to go through similar training before they're allowed to work in our school systems.
Thank you, Mrs. Counts. Mr. Sellers?
I think we should view the SROs in terms of appropriateness, whether they need to be in the lower grades, elementary school, probably not. If you're looking at middle school and high school, it's probably a necessary thing for them to be there. I don't support their using of weapons against the students. At certain times, we've had students that needed to be broken apart when they're fighting, or people who have come on campus. Probably a lot of people are unaware that we do have people come on campus from the community. So the SROs, it's a good thing for them to be there for those issues. I think, however, there are opportunities for the SROs to reach out to the students, to work with the community. At the school that I taught at, Berkmar, we had several really well qualified SROs. Rolando Jimenez educated the faculty on gang activity and what we could look for with students and help students get to the right path and not go into, as he called it, the life, which means getting into gang related activity. We as teachers, and I taught political systems in the early part of the spring. In January, we go through the US Constitution. We had the SROs meet with all of the classes to discuss constitutional rights, and we called it the Ask a Cop sessions. So
apologies, Mr. Sellers.
Yes.
Your time is up.
Okay,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
The timer did not go off.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Thank you. I will proceed with our next question. Mr. Stones will be the first one to answer it. It is a bit lengthy, so I will take my time to read it. Family and community engagement is 1.1% of the approximate $39 million of Title I funds that GCPS receives. It is the minimum required by ESSA, and the smallest line item in the Title I funds, and yet a portion of this 1.1% is used for salaries and benefits of Title I staff. Given that District 5 schools have a great number of families who are low income and that parents are key and their engagement is important, how can those funds be used to support authentic parent engagement?
I have a 20-year career in public health, worked in STD prevention. I've worked in work with tribal entities. I've worked with asthma prevention in low-income communities where we had no money either. And key to the success of all of those programs was active community engagement. And what that means is actually getting out into the community, sitting on couches, sitting on tables, engaging parents, students, stakeholders. It is a time-intensive job that doesn't necessarily require a ton of funding, although it requires some. And I think that is the type of outreach that needs to be, if the funding is, like I said, I'm used to working with underfunded public health programs where we had to engage communities. And I do think there are a lot of different techniques that can be utilized to effectively engage all manner of community, all manner of stakeholders, and do so in a way that brings families and allows for systematic understanding of the cultural differences that exist within the very diverse population of our school system. So more money would be great. I understand that, but I think there are lots of techniques, lots of ways to engage communities, and I think, you know, this is a type of forum that
Okay, Mrs. Jackson, did you want to mention something?
I was just saying the time was up. Apologies, I was on mute.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Sones. Mrs. Couts, you're up for answering this question.
Thank you. You know, I think it's undisputed that parent involvement is the key to success. I've worked with several school systems that are lacking in that parent involvement, and you can see the difference in the level of success for those children and then children that come from school systems where the parents are involved. I think that there's two things important here. The first is we can't always rely on the parents to come to us or to come to the school system. We have to have better communication, and we have to be willing to go out and meet the parents where they are. So many parents, you know, myself, I'm a single mom. It's hard. We have a lot going on, and, you know, we can't always go to the board meetings, but that doesn't mean we don't want to be involved. We can't always make the PTA meetings, but that doesn't mean we don't want to be involved. So I think the schools need to go out to where the parents are to get their involvement, especially those that are lacking in parental involvement. As far as the funding aspect, I've said this before, this isn't a sexy answer that people want to hear, but if elected, one of the things I would do would be an audit of the school system. I did this when I was elected mayor of Snellville. There's an institution at the University of Georgia, the Carl Vinson Institution, and they'll do such an audit, and it will show where you are lacking, not just a monetary audit, but also a staffing audit and a resource audit to show, you know, where we are strong and where we are lacking at in the school system. And that's what I'd like to do as one of the first things if elected.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer, Mrs. Counts. We'll move on to Mr. Sellers.
Yes. I think that the budget for going out into the community and community outreach should possibly be increased if possible. We need to go and meet the parents in the community. The board has done that in the past, holding community meetings. Individual schools have done that. At Barkmar High School, where I taught, we had principals' corner meetings where parents were invited in. We had interpreters so that people, if they were speaking Vietnamese, Spanish, or whatever language that they spoke, they could come in and feel comfortable being in separate meetings with their own culture. So we could do more to do that community outreach. There's a variety of techniques, and I won't go into all of them here, but we can do more. We should do more, especially in the Title I schools, because many of the parents are afraid to come to school. They're afraid to come to the schools because they see us as an extension or an instrument of the government. So we have to break down those barriers of fear and along with the students so that they know that we're there to work with them and to help them meet their goals and dreams. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sellers. Dr. Simmons.
I agree that there should be more done in the way of outreach in the community. Also, though, I've worked at a school where I feel like we did get it right in terms of over 90% of the students being English language learners, but being able to engage our parents to a point where it was difficult to even find a parking spot when we had parent-teacher association meetings and things of that sort. And so a part of that is creating an environment where the family feels welcome. Funds were used to provide transportation. We were able to provide taxi services to parents. We were able to secure translators for the parents that did not speak English as a first language. We have to be forward thinking and innovative in how we're utilizing the funding to address the barriers. And we don't know what those barriers are unless we have conversations with our community and our parents. Maybe the issue is childcare. So how can we partner with organizations in the community so that we're able to support with childcare if we need parents to come up to the school for a meeting and things of that sort. So we have to put some communication structures in place so that we can gather the insight and input from our community, our parents, as to why perhaps they're not engaged, and then work and come up with solutions to overcome those barriers. And so those are just a few thoughts that I have in terms of how we can better utilize the funding to engage our community and our parents.
Thank you very much, Dr. Simmons. We will move on to our last submitted question. There may or may not be one from the chat as well. And for this question, we will start with Mrs. Couts. The question is, GCPS student population is roughly 80 students per percent of color, yet the teaching staff is directly the opposite. As a board member, what could you propose to help staff develop an understanding of the beliefs, practices, and history of those outside of their own cultural group?
I believe that, well, a couple of things. First of all, if elected, one of the things that I would like to do is to start an advisory council. I know this doesn't go to staff, but our board is comprised of 5 school board members, and our school system is so large and so diverse. Our board doesn't reflect all the diversity in our school system. I would like to start advisory councils made up of faculty, parents, and community leaders that is a diverse group that can give advice to our board members. I also, if elected, would like to provide some cultural training to our teachers. That was one of the things I proposed to the staff of the city of Snellville. It's not necessarily whether, sometimes it's not your own personal beliefs, it's your perception and your lack of understanding. And so it's hard to know if you're doing something unless you understand it from someone else's perspective. And so I do believe that that's what that cultural training could provide to our teachers.
Thank you, Mrs. Counts. Mr. Sellers.
I believe that we have room for doing more than what Gwinnett has done in the past. In 2006, I taught the first cultural class. I went to school over a summer, and we had professors from Georgia State to put together a Teach the Teacher program. And we did that in 2006. It was focused on cultural literacy, cultural awareness, thought processes in the classroom. So the idea is that Gwinnett has done that before. However, it was sort of a one and done type of program. We need ongoing programs for teachers to understand other cultures. We could do more. So I would very much favor more training in that area. And it could be self-paced. It could be people who are could follow a curriculum on their own. It could be any number of things, but I think that we need more in the cultural awareness area, more than what we've done in the past.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sellers. Dr. Simmons, you are next to answer that question. I will repeat it. GCPS student population is roughly 80% students of color, yet the teaching staff is directly the opposite. As a board member, what could you propose to help staff develop an understanding of the beliefs, practices, and history of those outside of their own cultural group?
Okay, thank you for repeating the question. So I do believe that, the answer doesn't lie within the board. And so I do firmly believe that there should be an advisory of some sort put together where we're pulling community members, we're pulling educators, we are also pulling experts in the area of teaching and instructing on and providing guidance as it relates to race and differences, diversity and inclusion. I think that as you begin to make connections with one another, that's where you can really start to realize that we're not so different, but we also begin to appreciate those differences that do exist. And so I believe that GCPS, we need to create a culture of one where we create a sense of belonging, where we are willing to reach out and connect. So we need to put structures in place that allow for stakeholders to connect with one another, to have those hard discussions. We can't be afraid to have those hard discussions, but I do feel that we need to have protocols and processes in place to act on the information that we receive and having those discussions, and not just to meet, just to say that we've met, but that we actually come up with a strategic plan to address the concerns that may arise, and to think about how we can create a culture where everyone is valued and appreciated, no matter their race or their background.
Thank you, Dr. Simmons. Mr. Soanes, you're next.
Well, and I think all those solutions make sense. I think to some extent they assume that we're going to maintain the 80 to 20% ratio of teachers to students, or vice versa, 20 to 80%. You know, one thing I would do, and I come from also a management background, is look at innovative teacher recruitment programs, or to incentivize people of all different cultures and all different races to become teachers. I mean, I think teaching is probably a very difficult profession to sell right now because of all of the pandemic related issues and all the other ongoing issues. I was thinking that what might be a really neat idea would be to offer special scholarships for GCPS students who want to teach in GCPS. So sort of a students to teachers program, and we may already have sort of some apprenticeship programs that do that, because I see young kids going to the school all the time. But I think we should make a concerted effort to really see if we can build from within, draw from the richness of our culture, and bring young people into the field of teaching from these cultures. So we're not having to just automatically make sure all the teachers are culturally competent, because they may not necessarily. Let's look at ways to bring people from within the school system, within the cultures, into the teaching profession. I think that's a way to tackle it. One way to tackle it that doesn't necessarily.
And thank you very much, Mr. Soanes. So we have one question from the chat, which I will ask now, and we will start with Mr. Sellers' answer. The question is, will you provide a platform for students to address their concerns, voices, and voice their experiences?
Yes. I believe that the student should have a voice. I believe the teacher should have a voice. I believe the community should have a voice. It asks the question in a roundabout way that Gwinnett County Public Schools is not listening effectively enough. And I think that is the case. Students especially have asked me in the past, Mr. Sellers, we don't think they really care about us. And I go, why do you say that? And they go, well, I just think they only see us as a number. Or what do the counselors do? Why don't they counsel us? So if we listen to the students, they will tell us what they need. The problem is that we don't have adequate mechanisms for them to give their feedback. And I think that each school should have that. And I think that the board should have that. Students have come to the board and have talked to the board, but I think it should be taken much more seriously, because they're the people going to the schools. They're the kids who we're depending on to come out the other end of the process educated. So it should be a two-way street, should be feedback and reaction to their needs as well. They should have some input. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sellers. Dr. Simmons?
Absolutely, yes. That's what education is all about, is making sure that our students are prepared to contribute to society, to be productive citizens. And so who are we to not listen to them and solicit their input and to meet their needs? And we can't meet their needs if we don't know their needs. We've had students, and I commend the board on now allotting a certain part of the comments period at the board meetings to students. And so I've experienced students coming to the board meetings and expressing their concerns and their desires. I haven't really so much seen the response to those outcries and those points of feedback from students. And so that's where I feel we need to start taking more action, is in acknowledging that we hear you, and starting to think about how can we address what our students are sharing. And it shouldn't just take place at the board meetings. There should be councils at the school level or governance teams that are inclusive of students. I serve on the school council at my kids' elementary school. There are no students on the school council. Why is that? I don't know if that's a district-wide practice or not, but we need to hear from our students. How can we meet their needs if we don't give them a chance to voice their wants, their desires, what their interests are? And so I certainly feel that we can do more to provide a platform for them to share their wants and desires and their interests.
Thank you, Dr. Simmons. Mr. Stones, you're next.
So I agree with all the above. I think we do need to provide more voices for our students. In fact, that was sort of how I got into this race in the first place, was listening to students, my children's friends around the coffee table, or listening to them driving them to lacrosse practice, or the focus group moderator in me that wants to turn everything into a focus group. But I'm constantly amazed at the depth of insight that kids have, and I think providing the opportunities for them to voice their concerns, many of which are able to do that very articulately, is going to be paramount to improving just about every aspect in GCPS. And I wholeheartedly support the maximum student involvement in terms of listening sessions that we can possibly get.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stones. Mrs. Couts, you're up.
Most definitely. Students, this is their school system, this is their education, this is their lives. They need to feel as if they have a voice and they need to be heard. Students that feel as if they are part of the community or part of the education system tend to be more engaged, and they tend to be more productive. I think the problem with, we have groups now, we have advisory councils now, leadership councils. I think the problem with that is it leaves out certain groups of students, and everyone needs to feel like they have a voice at the table. And so I support students coming to the school board meetings, but I think they also need to have a platform aside from the school board meetings and their local school system where they feel comfortable being heard and sharing their ideas. We have amazing students in Gwinnett County Public Schools, and you will be amazed at the knowledge that they have and the innovation that they have, the ideas that they can come up with. I think that it's important for whoever is elected to go out and be a part of the school system and to go and visit the local school so that students feel comfortable coming to them and reaching out to their school board representative and not being afraid to reach out to them and share their opinions.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Counts. So at this point, we are actually done with the questions. We now have time for your closing remarks. Just like for the questions, we'll go from one candidate to the next. You will have a minute and 30 seconds to present your closing remarks. And we will start with Dr. Simmons.
Thank you so much. So as mentioned at the top of the call, I'm leading with them for our teachers, our learners, and our community. And so our teachers, they really need to feel our support right now. We have good quality teachers in Gwinnett County Public Schools, and we want to keep them. We need to be thinking about how we can provide incentives to keep our high quality teachers in place and to attract even more teachers into the profession. As it relates to our learners, our student body is more diverse than it's ever been, and we need to respond to that. We need to show that we appreciate diversity. Students are expressing that they want to see themselves in the curriculum reflected in the materials they study. So we need to be more inclusive as it relates to our curriculum. We need a more diverse pipeline of educators in the school so that our students can see people that look like them. Research shows that this will help to cut down on discipline issues. And so we need to provide to implement some concerted efforts in trying to increase the diversity of our educator pipeline. As it relates to community, our parents, we need to really engage them. We need to put forth efforts to pull them into the decision-making process to assist with the school improvement efforts. Oftentimes parents are not invited into the decision-making, or there are barriers in place that prevent them from participating. So we need to really think through some best practices on how we can best engage our parents and our communities. I think someone mentioned earlier, how can we engage our parents? We can be creative. We can implement parent liaisons, people in the schools that can help us to bridge and make those connections. And so I'm really just thinking about how to best meet the needs of our community, our learners, and our teachers. And I ask that you visit my website, and I would be delighted if you vote for me.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Simmons. We'll now hear from Mr. Soanes.
Hey, thank you for inviting me to the forum. I think that my final remarks would be that we need to focus on recognition and communication. Recognition of the issues that are out there, and communication by GCPS on what they're going to do to fix those problems. If you're talking about students, it's addressing their issues so that they can make themselves successful, meet them where they are, provide things for them as they're necessary so that they can help meet their goals. If you're talking about teachers, if you're talking about parents rather, making them feel welcome, bringing them into the process, again, communicating with them and letting them know that they are part of the process and that it's a safe place for them to come and to be able to put in input that will be taken seriously. As for teachers, we have a big enough problem now just keeping the teachers that we do have. The recognition of that problem has not been, it's taken a long time for the system to realize that teacher attrition and teachers leaving the profession is real. So yes, we need to bring in more diverse teachers, but we also need to bring in more teachers, period. And if we have to do a grow your own process or other things or other innovative programs, that should be done. But we must recognize the problems that are out there and address them and communicate what we're going to do about them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Yes. Oh, Mr. Soanes.
Well, and I just want to start off again by thank you for the opportunity. I think we have a real treasure here in Gwinnett County Public Schools, and the amount of potential is unlimited. I think it's easy to point out the problems, and there are many. I'm not going to deny that there are many problems, but I firmly believe that we have at our disposal, within our reach, all of the many of the resources that we need to address these problems. We do need to address the reading and math proficiency scores, and I think doing comprehensive analysis of the factors that contribute to those is a must for moving the system forward and improving student performance. But I don't think that necessarily needs to be done at the expense of student emotional and psychological well-being. I think we cannot forget that both students and teachers have been through a lot these past 2 years, and I think it's vital to their success, both teachers and students, to provide as much support emotionally and psychologically and academically as we can. And if I'm elected to the board, that's going to be my priority, is because I believe they're intertwined. I don't think you can have achievement without that kind of emotional and mental support. And I think we've got to find a way to tie all of those factors together so that we can move this system out of this very, very troubling time we've had with the pandemic.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Stones. And Mrs. Counts?
First of all, I want to thank everyone for putting this forum together and for allowing me to be a participant. As I stated in the beginning, I feel that I'm the best candidate for this position because I'm invested, I'm experienced, and I'm involved. I'm not a fresh face in this community. I've been, born and raised here in District 4, and I've proven that I am a true leader and a public servant. I have a track record of when there's problems, for solving them, for bringing stability to institutions, and when I see injustices, for being a bulldog and fighting it all the way up to the Georgia Supreme Court. And so I will do that. I will be that voice for our students. I will be that voice for our parents, and I will be that voice for our faculty in our community. If elected, my main priority will be to put an end to these one-size-fits-all policies that Gwinnett County has seemed to develop. Our school system is too diverse and too large for that. We have to return some common sense and some local control to our school system. We've become so bureaucratic, and we blame everything that we can't do this because of the policy. We have to stop that. We have to return to doing what's in the best interest of our children, regardless of what our policy says. Policies aren't laws. Policies can be changed. We also have to realize that our school system can't do everything alone, and it takes a village, and we need to rely on some of the nonprofits and the resources in our community outside of our school system. We have many things we do great in Gwinnett County schools, but many things that need improved, and I'm focusing.
Thank you, Mrs. Counts. I also would like to thank all the candidates for District 4 that attended tonight's forum, that took the time to answer questions and to share their ideas for our district and for our children. At this point, this is the end of the first section of our forum for District 4, and we will soon be transitioning to District 2. All right. And if I am not mistaken, Mr. Knudsen is with us now.
Yeah, there he is. Yep.
Yeah, just getting unmuted here. So good to be with you.
Yes, there we go. I can see you. Yes, thank you. Thank you for being here with us tonight. We appreciate you taking the time to come and answer some questions. Our intended format was, just like for District 4, to present questions to you and Mr. Rudnick, the other candidate for District 2. Unfortunately, after having accepted, Mr. Rudnick informed us that he would not be attending tonight. So we are adapting to these conditions. There's no issue with that. We're ready for that. So this may be in some ways a bit more flowing than a rigid question answer.
Sure.
But that's an opportunity for you to share more information. So we will start by you introducing yourself, and we do have some time limit that we'll try to respect, but knowing that there's only one person speaking, I think we'll be lenient with that. So can you tell us about you and why you want to run?
Sure. So my name's Steve Knudsen. I'm the District 2 representative on the Gwinnett County Board of Education, having been elected almost 4 years ago in the fall of 2018. I live in Sugar Hill. We have lived in our current residence for about 16 years. We lived in Suwanee for 8 years before that, so 24 years in Gwinnett County. I don't have any current children in Gwinnett County Public Schools. I have 4 children who are successfully adulting, having graduated North Gwinnett High School. And so they are now beginning to expand the Knudsen name. We have one grandchild it's 8 months old. And so I've got a potential future user of Gwinnett County Public Schools. And we just found out recently we've got 2 more on the way. So between now and the end of the year, we'll have 3 grandkids. Welcome to the world, and excited about that. And the reason that I was compelled to run, Dan Seckinger was the incumbent at the time. He chose not to seek re-election, and my name came up as a possible replacement for him. And so he and I sat and talked and met, and it just became evident to me that the compelling reason for me was to give back to a community that has given so much to me and my family. Grew up on the West Coast, but when we got to Gwinnett County, my wife said within months that I could work anywhere for anyone, but if it was outside Gwinnett, I was going alone. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sharing that. So I will proceed with our questions. We have 5 questions that were submitted at the time of registration. We may have additional questions submitted through the chat, either through Zoom or through Facebook, and we may take these as well, depending on how much time we have. And then you will have a minute at the very end to present your closing remarks. So we'll start with the first one. The Student Code of Conduct has not had a major revision in 10 years. Do you support a complete rewrite of the Student Code of Conduct? Why or why not?
Yeah, I don't support a complete rewrite. I think that Student Code of Conduct was done very thoughtfully when they put it together. I think that it has need to be reviewed, obviously, but I view it more as neutral. And I think what we need to review, and one of the things that we're engaging in right now as a board, is we're reviewing the application of the Student Code of Conduct, and we're reviewing the enforcement of the Student Code of Conduct. That, to me, is really where you're going to come into a situation where it could be applied unevenly or unequally. And so from my perspective, and there are some areas that we have looked at because we are reviewing the Code of Conduct itself, but as you say, a complete rewrite, I don't think that that's necessary. I think we need to tweak it. I think we need to look at some things that have taken place in the last 10 years, see if there's any context that may have shifted. But I think for the most part, we want to look at the behavior, and what the Student Code of Conduct outlines for us is what we believe is the acceptable behavior to allow all 180,000 of our students find a way to succeed in the opportunity of getting an education. And again, some of it needs to be tweaked. I've said this numerous times for different situations. We're not perfect, but we're going to look at things and see what needs to be shifted. But I think in terms of the application, in terms of how it's being applied at the local school level, and then how it's being enforced at the district level, probably is where more opportunity for an inequity might take place.
Thank you very much. The second question is, how do you help students who have been disengaged by learning gaps in order to help address differences in student achievement?
Yeah, that's one of the toughest. That's one of the toughest things that we have to do. I know that we hired a new superintendent, and that superintendent has had success in doing some of those things that you've mentioned, and so I'm excited to work alongside him, and as he comes in with fresh eyes on how we do things in Gwinnett County, and look for ways that we can begin to improve on that. A big part of that is our teachers. Obviously, they're our most important resource. I'm married to a teacher. I get daily updates on the various things that go on in her class, and how she has to react to all the different things that the kids experience, not only in the school, but that comes with them as they come into the school. And so there's a lot of things that need to be addressed. And part of that is our professional development. How do we take our 11,000 teachers, and you can say, look, our average teacher has a master's degree and 13 years of experience. So if that's our average, we've got a lot of great experienced teachers that are helping to educate our children. We've got to take those that maybe don't have that much experience, maybe don't have that much education, and help them develop professionally. And what I understand now is it's sometimes our professional development might almost be too robust. It's so voluminous, it's hard to work through it. And so we may need to develop some mentoring even for professional development so that our new teachers can get up to speed and grow as quickly as possible. But a good teacher has the ability to individualize their instruction to the kids in their class. And if they do that, you'll have engagement, you'll have belonging, and you'll have success. And it's not foolproof, but I can just tell you when I hear the individual stories of my wife as she tells me what she does to engage the children in her class, the students in her class, it's possible. Not everyone has the experience that my wife has, but we can help get them there faster through coaching and mentoring in our professional development.
Thank you very much for that answer. The next question is a bit lengthy, so I'm going to take my time to read it. The SRO procedural manual requires that an annual report be generated to build community relations. The report is mandated to include topics ranging from current concerns expressed by the school community to proposed solutions to any problems identified. However, the report is not readily available outside of an open records request. As a board member, what can you do to ensure that the report is easily accessible to the community?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for the most part, at least the SROs that I've had a chance to interact with are solid, quality individuals who care about our kids, and they don't want to be involved in many of the things that they have to be involved in any more than our kids want to find themselves involved in some of those things. I think that transparency is incredibly important. And so it sort of pains me to hear that your question is framed that way, that it is hard to get to that. It seems to me that while one of the key aspects of our SROs is that they're protecting against a major act or an outside negative act in one of our schools. And so part of our procedures are not readily available for the fact that if someone knows what your plan is, then they can find ways and loopholes within that plan to maybe perpetrate harm. So from that perspective, there are some things that I don't even know and I don't even ask because there's a part of me that doesn't want to know everything that how they would react to certain things. Because someone might ask me something, I might actually say something that maybe compromises their ability to act properly. But when it comes to a report, it seems to me that we ought to be able to provide the information that you're looking for and that the community is looking for in a format that creates the transparency and really, to me, opens up the heart of what we're trying to accomplish with our SROs. And again, safety number one, community service number two, and that safety is not just students, but it's for our teachers and our staff as well.
Thank you. Our next question is the following. How will you advocate the prioritization of funds towards student-facing positions, such as classroom teaching, over those positions that are not student-facing, such as those at the Instructional Support Center?
Yeah, I know that's been a concern. We're going to be getting some information back soon. One of the things that Dr. Watts has put in place a couple of months ago was sort of an efficiency report or an effectiveness report for the school district. A lot of focus on what's going on at the ISC, and so that we can begin to move forward strategically along those lines. You know, we spend 79% of our operating budget goes into what we determine is connected to classroom instruction. So clearly trying to help our teachers, and there are, again, some supports and some scaffolding that we have to give our teachers, maybe teachers who don't have quite the experience. So there are coaches and there are mentors and there are lead teachers and there are assistant principals, and I know that the Gwinnett Association of Educators has continued to raise issues of concern about how that's developed, or how those monies are allocated. We're looking at things through a fresh set of eyes with Dr. Watts, and I think that he's going to make some recommendations. I think as a board, we're going to listen to those recommendations. We're going to probably ask him questions about experience in terms of what he's seen in those recommendations and how they've led to higher student achievement. Because at the end of the day, isn't that what we're here? We want to see every student achieve as much as they can before they leave our doors. And so from my perspective, we already allocate a tremendous amount there. We have our teacher advisory council. Last month at our board meeting, I spent a couple of hours with the teacher advisory council members from my district. Got a lot of great feedback from them. So we're constantly trying to listen to them and have them bring us their concerns and how we can help them. And I know one of the things that we're looking at that's critical is lowering class sizes. I think that helps everybody. Even Dr. Therese asked recently, maybe there's some teachers who would even take less pay if they could, teach 25 kids instead of 29 or 33 or whatever that number is. And so we're looking at all those things. At the end of the day, we want our teachers to feel supported. We want to be able to reward them as well as we can. And ultimately for the end goal of our students achieving. And so I would say there's nothing that's off the table along those lines, while we work within an organization that does have limited resources at the end of the day.
Thank you. Now, how will you promote active participation by stakeholders of various cultures and/or languages in all areas where decisions are made, such as board meetings or GEMS committee?
One of the things that I really, when I listened to a lot of the candidates that were running for District 4, it was interesting. There was a lot of sort of responses, things that I would have found myself even saying 4 years ago, that once I got involved and really got to kind of see behind the curtain, as it were, there's a new perspective to the different things. Gwinnett has taken a tremendous amount of pride in engaging its stakeholders, and we continuously put out the information and encourage people to come be a part of that. I know I heard some feedback from some folks that I knew that engaged in our last GEMS process, and one of the things they said was they felt like there were too many teachers, or maybe too many former teachers that were involved, that there was less community involvement. That's feedback that we can take and we can use, and we can try to tweak those numbers so that we get more stakeholder involvement. But we have parental engagement, and one of the biggest frustrations, I felt like my wife and I were intentional parents, and we would, all four of my kids were athletes, so as much as we could sit around the dinner table and talk to them and ask them about how their day went, what they encountered, what different things had taken place, and how could we encourage them, how could we help them self-advocate, all of those different things. I feel like our kids did okay academically. They certainly did well athletically, but being intentional parents, one of the biggest frustrations I have is how little involvement we have. We're beginning to put some things in place like thought exchange. We're beginning to put more and more languages into our translation opportunities. So when we're putting information out there, we can interact with a more diverse group of parents and community members. So we're being very proactive along those lines. And I think there's more to come. I don't think we're there yet, but I do know as we try to communicate with our stakeholders, there can be an overload. They're getting information from their teachers. They're getting information from their principals. They're getting information from the district. They're getting information from various CTE programs that their kids might be a part of. They're getting information from their foreign language that they might be a part of. I mean, you get to a point where you could be getting 10 or 12 emails in a week from Gwinnett County Public Schools. And when you're a busy person and you're trying to raise kids and take care of a family and make money. Sometimes that overload is nothing we can control. We can put a lot of information out there, but it ultimately has to be absorbed, read, and then acted on by our community. And if I could wave a magic wand and say, yeah, more people would be involved, I would love to do it, because I think the more the merrier.
And our next question is connected to this one. There is inconsistency in translating and interpreting meetings and information to parents who do not speak English yet. How can we ensure, how can you ensure that this process is respected and that more parents are informed about opportunities at the school?
Yeah, like I said, it is a constant. If you've watched any of our board meetings over the last 12 months, 15 months, you will see that this is a question that comes up on a regular basis by Dr. Therese, and the whole board is supportive of trying to engage more people more often in better ways. And so part of it's the implementation. There's no doubt that the board currently supports all of those things that you mentioned in your question. We want to, I mean, we speak over 100 languages in Gwinnett County. We're probably not going to be able to get translations in 100 languages, but we'll hit those. I think we're already talking about maybe the 8 most populous languages in Gwinnett County and trying to create those translations. So again, it's a priority of the board. We've been working on that, and we'll continue to work on that. It's in process. That's all I can say. And I'm not an expert in what it takes to figure out how to translate a website, as well as an email, as well as a, phone message, et cetera, et cetera. But the one thing that Gwinnett County does is it finds those experts and it figures out how to get the job done.
Thank you. And our last question before closing remarks actually comes from Facebook. And the question pertains to Learning 2025. And so one of our Facebook users wants to know what your thoughts are on that initiative.
Yeah, that's coming up a lot from within our community. My response is that there are 125 of the top school districts in the nation that have been invited to be a part of this process to look at what we do within education and how we can do it better. There's not a business out there that does business the same way today as it did 100 years ago. So why would we look at what we do within education and say, hey, we've always done it this way, let's never look at any new way to do it? Dr. Watts believes that Learning 2025 might unlock some opportunities for educating our kids better. And so for that reason, he's accepted the invite to be a part of that process. So Gwinnett's always been a leader. Gwinnett has set a higher bar for its curriculum than the state requires. Gwinnett has used assessments well, in fact, in some ways, almost too well, because the state has looked at Gwinnett and how we were able to assess our kids. And then they said, hey, we're going to mandate more assessment, which compounds what we do. And so it forces us to wrestle with how do we maintain a higher standard and still maintain all of the universal mandatory testing that the state mandates that we do. Learning 2025 is, again, we're still learning what that is. It's just beginning. But from my perspective, it's just another opportunity for us to benchmark against, which we do on a number of different issues. We did this under Mr. Wilbanks. We're continuing to do it under Dr. Watts. There are several metrics that we benchmark against the best school districts that are out there that are doing it. Why would we not want to engage in another opportunity to be a part of the best, to challenge each other, to see if there might be some ways that we can increase student achievement across the board and help every one of our 180,000 kids in Gwinnett County schools cover more ground and be better prepared for what happens beyond high school.
Well, thank you very much for that answer and for the ones preceding that. We are at the point now where we are ready for your closing remarks. So if you want to share a few thoughts about your candidacy.
Yeah, no, I hope that that the Gwinnett Association of Educators and Gwinnett SToPP can use this opportunity to endorse someone who has been getting the job done for the last 4 years. I've been a part of the leadership team that's got us through a worldwide pandemic, a part of the leadership team that although I disagreed with how we ended our opportunity or ended the opportunity of employing Mr. Wilbanks as our superintendent, I felt he should have had the opportunity to finish out his contract. When the board chose to go in a different direction, then we engaged and we came to a unanimous decision to hire Dr. Watts, who I think can lead us to the next level of education for our kids. And so while some of our decisions have maybe fallen under scrutiny because they were overly cautious, I know there are a lot of folks that you all represent that would say maybe they weren't even cautious enough. I mean, the pandemic was one of those things that was really hard to try to figure out how to not have half of the people not happy with you. But we've led through that. We've maximized the number of kids in school. We've maximized the days those kids have been in school. We've come up with ways to care for our teachers and to give them some opportunities as the governor has passed on money for our teachers. We've immediately passed that on. We've even given a raise in the 1 year that he didn't in the last couple of years to let our teachers know. We've done some things that we've said to the teachers, we're with you. We understand this is difficult. And so from that perspective, I feel like I'm just now scratching the surface of Gwinnett County Public Schools, and that another 4 years, I can make even more of a difference to help all of our kids achieve at a higher level.
Well, thank you, Mr. Knudsen, for being with us, for answering these questions, and for honoring your commitment to be here with us tonight. We appreciate that. I also want to extend my thanks to GCAE and Gwinnett SToPP for inviting me to moderate this event tonight, this forum. I also want to share something that Gwinnett SToPP informed me about, is that Gwinnett SToPP does not endorse candidates, but does its best to support the Board of Education of GCPS. So on that, I would like to know if if any other words need to be said by Gwinnett SToPP before I end the event. Ms. Jackson?
Yes. Juliet is going to close us out.
There you go.
Thank you very much for everybody that came tonight. We appreciate you spending time with us and taking the time to answer with us. Thank you, Gwinnett SToPP, for hosting this event, and we appreciate that you've partnered with us to do that. We do want to remind everyone that early voting begins on May 2nd. Absentee ballots are due on May 13th, and the election itself is on May 24th. It is a primary election, but the school board race is not a primary. So it's really important that we get that information out to our constituents in our community so that they know they need to get out and vote for the candidate that they represent, that they want to represent them in District 2 and District 4. We have put on here how to get in touch with GCAE. We do endorse candidates, so hopefully we'll be hearing from Mr. Knudsen soon and our other candidates that we invited to fill out their survey, and then we will finish our endorsement process. And of course, this is how you can contact Gwinnett SToPP. Thank you again, everybody. And I wish everybody a good evening.
Thank you.
Yeah.